Hello, my name is Zeta. Thank you for joining us in this highly educational video on jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is the authority to address issues, enforce contracts, or exercise rights within a legal framework. This concept, exemplified by the United States, applies globally across public and private sectors, encompassing various international and national contexts. Discover the unique governance of international city-states. Washington, D.C. operates as a plenary oligarchy under the Municipal United States Congress. The City of London, a financial hub, is governed by the temple government under the Roman Pontiff, managing both territorial and admiralty law. Vatican City, a global municipal jurisdiction, functions under municipal, ecclesiastical, and canon law, chartering corporations worldwide. These city-states exemplify diverse jurisdictional boundaries and governance structures, influencing international business and legal landscapes. The law of the air transcends borders, offering a universal jurisdiction. It is founded on three core principles: maintain peace, cause no harm, and treat others as you wish to be treated. By adhering to these principles, individuals fulfill all other legal obligations, positioning themselves above other legal systems. This law's simplicity and universality make it a cornerstone for global harmony and ethical business practices, ensuring a cohesive framework for international relations and commerce. Jurisdictional boundaries define our world. Soil and land mark national domains. Soil is the top 6 inches, land lies beneath. Sea and air represent international and global jurisdictions. Lawful persons inhabit soil and land, while legal persons navigate sea and air. The conversion between these realms often fuels global challenges. Understanding these distinctions is crucial for navigating international relations and ensuring effective governance across borders. In the United States, jurisdictional boundaries distinguish land from sea territories. Land jurisdiction applies to state nationals, while sea jurisdiction pertains to citizens of the state. This distinction extends to legal systems and the concept of natural versus corporate persons. Different inks and seals symbolize these jurisdictions. International law, especially UNCLOS, significantly influences maritime practices. Understanding these boundaries is essential for comprehending the legal framework governing both land and sea, ensuring informed decision-making in business and governance. Jurisdiction is the authority to enforce laws or agreements within a legal framework. It involves action, rights, and frameworks provided by entities like states or corporations. Juridical refers to legal administration, while judicial is about court processes. Juridical frameworks operate globally, internationally, and nationally, and can be public or private. Juridical frameworks define the legal structures for exercising rights and actions. They exist within various entities like states and corporations, extending to global, international, and national jurisdictions. The Jural Assembly Handbook by Anna von Reitz offers insights into these frameworks, focusing on the U.S. context. Washington, D.C. operates as a plenary oligarchy, an independent city-state under a municipal charter, managed by the Municipal Corporation of the District of Columbia. This charter outlines its structure and powers, functioning as a territorial democracy. The City of London operates as an independent international city-state, managing admiralty law through its sea courts. Vatican City, another city-state, administers global municipal charters under the Holy See. Together they form the Empire of the City, influencing global jurisdictions. These city-states operate under the Roman Pontiff's authority, extending their reach through municipal, ecclesiastical, and canon laws. Their unique legal frameworks shape international commerce and governance, demonstrating their significant impact on global legal structures. The law of the sea and admiralty law govern international waters, administered by the City of London through sea courts. The Crown Temple, linked to the City of London, plays a pivotal role in international law under the Roman Pontiff. Meanwhile, the law of the air offers a global legal framework based on peace, non-harm, and reciprocity, transcending other systems. Lastly, the law of the land, rooted in American common law, governs national systems, emphasizing historical treaties and natural rights. Together, these frameworks shape global commerce and governance. The law of the sea sets the framework for maritime rights and duties, from navigation to mineral claims. It distinguishes between national and international jurisdictions, akin to the sea and air's separation. National jurisdiction covers the top 6 inches of U.S. soil inhabited by lawful persons under state laws. Below this, international jurisdiction involves legal persons operating under global agreements. Understanding these layers is crucial for navigating the complex landscape of maritime law and its impact on global commerce. International jurisdiction extends beneath the top 6 inches of soil, encompassing 50 states interacting with sea jurisdiction. Here, legal persons abide by international laws. Distinguishing lawful persons who occupy land jurisdictions from legal persons in the sea and air is crucial. Unlawful conversion between these identities disrupts jurisdictional boundaries, creating global governance issues. This document clarifies these distinctions, detailing the legal frameworks and roles of officials across jurisdictions, essential for understanding international governance dynamics. Explore the distinct legal frameworks of land and sea jurisdictions. Land jurisdiction, rooted in American common law, involves state nationals and operates through justices and jural assemblies in states like Washington and Oregon. In contrast, sea jurisdiction, governed by admiralty and maritime law, applies to U.S. citizens, focusing on international commerce in states like Massachusetts. County courts emphasize local governance, using justices of the peace for community-based justice. Understanding these distinctions is vital for navigating the complex landscape of jurisdictional governance. International commerce and trade operate under distinct frameworks. Incorporated democracies engage differently than unincorporated republics, impacting their constitutional interactions. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the U.S. Constitution empowers Congress with exclusive legislation over federal areas, including Washington, D.C. The law of the sea, derived from UNCLOS, governs maritime issues, promoting peace and resource equity. Admiralty law addresses private maritime matters, ensuring order in sea-based commerce. Understanding these frameworks is crucial for navigating global business landscapes effectively. International commerce and trade can be governed by different frameworks depending on the political structure of the countries involved. Incorporated democracies, which have a formal constitution and a system of government enshrined in law, may have distinct constitutional interactions compared to unincorporated republics. For instance, in the United States, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution grants Congress the exclusive power to legislate over federal areas, such as Washington, D.C. This provision enables the U.S. government to regulate and manage its internal and external commerce effectively. On the other hand, maritime issues are governed by the law of the sea, which is derived from the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. This international agreement promotes peace, stability, and resource equity in the oceans, which is crucial for global commerce. Differences between international law and the law of the land. International law refers to the body of rules and principles that govern the relationships between countries and other international actors, such as organizations and individuals. International law is based on treaties, conventions, and customary practices that have been agreed upon by countries and other international actors. International law is often characterized by softer enforcement. International law is not always enforced by a central authority, and countries may not always comply with international obligations. Voluntary participation. Countries and other international actors may choose to participate in international law, but are not necessarily bound by it. Diverse sources. International law may be based on a variety of sources, including treaties, conventions, customary practices, and general principles of law. Examples of international law include human rights law, international law that protects the rights of individuals, such as the right to life, liberty, and security of person. International humanitarian law, international law that regulates the conduct of war and the treatment of prisoners of war. Environmental law, international law that regulates the protection of the environment and the prevention of pollution. Law of the land. The law of the land, also known as municipal law, refers to the body of laws that govern a particular country or jurisdiction. The law of the land is based on the constitution, statutes, regulations, and common law of a country or jurisdiction. The law of the land is often characterized by harder enforcement. The law of the land is enforced by a central authority, such as a government or court, and individuals and organizations are generally bound by it. Compulsory participation. Individuals and organizations are generally required to comply with the law of the land, and failure to do so can result in penalties or sanctions. Unified sources. The law of the land is based on a unified set of sources, including the Constitution, statutes, regulations, and common law. Examples of the law of the land include criminal law, the law that governs criminal behavior, such as murder, theft, and assault. Contract law, the law that governs agreements between individuals and organizations, such as contracts for the sale of goods or services. Property law, the law that governs ownership and use of property, such as real estate or personal property. Key differences. The key differences between international law and the law of the land are scope. International law governs relationships between countries and other international actors, while the law of the land governs relationships within a particular country or jurisdiction. Enforcement. International law is often softer and more voluntary, while the law of the land is generally harder and more compulsory. Sources. International law may be based on a variety of sources, while the law of the land is based on a unified set of sources, such as the Constitution and statutes. In summary, international law and the law of the land are two distinct bodies of law that govern different types of relationships and are based on different sources and enforcement mechanisms. In the complex world of jurisdiction, lawful persons operate within the soil jurisdiction tied to physical reality. In contrast, legal persons exist in the sea jurisdiction as fictional constructs. The interface bar is the boundary between these realms. To cross, a temporary bill of lading is required for lawful conversion. Unlawful conversion occurs with improper boundary crossing. Flags symbolize jurisdictional presence, while innocence and guilt vary across these domains. Understanding these distinctions is crucial for navigating jurisdictional complexities. The concepts of jurisdiction and the distinction between lawful persons and legal persons are complex and multifaceted. I'll provide a detailed explanation of the relevant AmJur citations and the different types of entities involved. AmJur. 2D Conflict of Laws, Paragraph 6. Jurisdiction and its application to different types of persons, including natural persons and artificial entities. The section explains that jurisdiction refers to the power of a court to hear and decide a case, and that this power is derived from the territorial jurisdiction of the court. In the context of natural persons, jurisdiction is typically based on the physical presence of the individual within the territorial boundaries of the court. However, in the case of artificial entities, such as corporations or trusts, jurisdiction can be based on a variety of factors, including domicile, the artificial entity's principal place of business or residence. Registration, the artificial entity's registration or incorporation within a particular jurisdiction. Agency, the artificial entity's presence or activities within a particular jurisdiction through an agent or representative. AmJur. 2D Jurisdiction, Paragraph 1. This section defines jurisdiction and its relationship to the physical and legal realms. The section explains that jurisdiction is a fundamental concept in law, and that it refers to the power of a court to hear and decide a case. The section also discusses the concept of territorial jurisdiction, which refers to the jurisdiction of a court over individuals or entities physically present within its territorial boundaries. However, the section also notes that territorial jurisdiction is not the only basis for jurisdiction, and that courts can also exercise jurisdiction over individuals or entities based on other factors, such as personal jurisdiction, the court's power to exercise jurisdiction over an individual or entity based on their activities or presence within the jurisdiction. Subject matter jurisdiction, the court's power to exercise jurisdiction over a particular type of case or controversy. AmJur. 2D Admiralty, Paragraph 2. This section discusses the concept of the sea jurisdiction and its relationship to maritime law. The section explains that the sea jurisdiction refers to the jurisdiction of a court over maritime cases and controversies, and that this jurisdiction is typically based on the location of the ship or vessel within the territorial boundaries of the court. The section also discusses the concept of maritime law, which refers to the body of law that governs maritime cases and controversies. The section explains that maritime law is a complex and multifaceted field, and that it encompasses a wide range of topics, including ship ownership, the ownership and control of ships and vessels, maritime contracts, the formation and enforcement of contracts related to maritime activities, maritime torts, the liability of individuals or entities for injuries or damages caused by maritime activities, Jur 2D contracts, Parv 145. This section discusses the concept of jurisdiction and its relationship to contracts. The section explains that jurisdiction is essential to the enforcement of contracts, and that a court must have jurisdiction over the parties to a contract in order to enforce it. The section also discusses the concept of choice of law, which refers to the law that will be applied to a contract. The section explains that the choice of law is typically determined by the parties to the contract, and that it may be based on a variety of factors, including the location of the parties, the subject matter of the contract, and the law of the jurisdiction in which the contract is to be performed. Jur 2D Constitutional Law, Paragraph 96. This section discusses the concept of jurisdiction and its relationship to the Constitution. The section explains that the Constitution grants jurisdiction to the federal courts, and that this jurisdiction is based on the Constitution's grant of power to the federal government. The section also discusses the concept of judicial review, which refers to the power of the federal courts to review the actions of the executive and legislative branches of government. The section explains that judicial review is a fundamental principle of constitutional law, and that it is essential to the functioning of the federal system. Types of entities. The concepts of jurisdiction and sovereign immunity are relevant to a wide range of entities, including natural persons, individuals who are subject to the jurisdiction of a court based on their physical presence within the territorial boundaries of the court, artificial entities, corporations, trusts, and other entities that are created by law and are subject to the jurisdiction of a court based on their registration or incorporation within a particular jurisdiction. Governments, sovereign governments, and government agencies that are immune from suit or liability based on their sovereign immunity. Government officials and employees who are immune from suit or liability for their official actions based on their functional immunity. In conclusion, the concepts of jurisdiction are complex and multifaceted, and they are relevant to a wide range of entities, including natural persons, artificial entities, governments, and government officials. The Jur citations discussed above provide a detailed explanation of these concepts and their application to different types of entities. In the realm of jurisdictional boundaries, distinguishing between lawful and legal persons is crucial. Crossing from land to sea jurisdictions involves treaties with the British monarch and the Papal Temple government. These agreements ensure protection of lawful persons' rights in international waters. Trespassing these boundaries without proper consent can lead to significant consequences. Understanding these distinctions and responsibilities is essential for navigating the complexities of jurisdictional transitions and ensuring compliance with international law. Jurisdictional boundaries are seen as part of a divine plan, with boundaries being permanent and laws adaptable. However, the administration of these systems is criticized as incompetent, likened to a global crime syndicate. Various law systems, such as ecclesiastical and canon law, are discussed. The Holy See, Vatican, City of London, and Washington, D.C. play roles in different crimes. The incomplete administration of land jurisdiction and criminal administration of sea jurisdiction lead to unlawful activities and encroachments, as the U.S. courts are now crossing these boundaries without our explicit consent. Thank you for watching. We hope you have had a great time learning with us.